So it's been 11 months now since I wrapped my kitchen using DC Fix. You may have seen some of my videos. So today I'm just going to be giving you an update, showing you how it's holding up, giving you some tips on things that I would have done a little bit differently, and answering some frequently asked questions from the comments on some of my videos. If you want to skip to that section, use the timestamps that I've put down below. Some of it is bending. This is the way that I'd folded the door around underneath, and it's getting caught on that piece there, so it's just coming away a little bit. But if I wanted to change that, I could just replace that strip. On the boiler, it's just coming off around the edges here. I didn't actually heat finish this one, so the rest of it is absolutely fine. Again, a few little bits here that are coming out of place, but I can just go around with a knife and sort those ones out. The main issues that I'm having with it is these indentations here where it's coming out, but I'll try and push them down with the squeegee and go in there with a little bit of heat to see whether I can fix those. This corner is also getting a bit roughed up. I think it's just the way that it's been folded over there, so I could just do with taking this piece off and redoing that. As I said, it's the indentations that I'm having the issue with, but the actual main pieces of the wrap are pretty much still perfect. Highest traffic area of the kitchen, it's the dishwasher and under the sink. Alicia, my daughter, likes to kick the dishwasher closed, so I don't know whether it was maybe her that had caused that damage there. These cupboards aren't doing too bad. All in all, from a distance, you can't really tell, and it's more down to if you're looking closer that you can see where there is an issue. So I did get so many questions and comments about this product. I've actually screenshotted some of the comments and I'm going to go through them and basically respond. Mud Puppy said, painting would be much easier. In the time you spent on the first strip, I would have had the first coat painted on both sides. So my how-to video's actually got 277,000 views on it at the moment, and the amount of people that had commented saying it'd be quicker to paint, it's actually a little bit annoying because I paint a lot of stuff. I upcycle furniture, and most of the things that I've painted, I know that paint is very, very difficult to maintain. I've never used a specialist cupboard paint before. However, knowing how dirty kitchens can get and how sometimes you do need to kind of scrub away at spillages, I can't see that painting would be easier to maintain than this wrap. If you've used a specialist cupboard paint that has been really good and is very, very durable to scrub at, comment down below and let everyone know what paint you use. In terms of saying it's quicker to paint the door than it is to wrap it, I really don't agree, because let's say you were going to do one coat, then you need to let that coat dry. Then you need to do another coat and then let that dry. That doesn't take less than 15 minutes. That's quite a long process, plus all of the mess that it makes. So I definitely don't agree that painting is quicker than wrapping, especially again if you've got a flat door. A flat door takes 5-6 minutes to wrap. It's so simple. It was this door in particular that was so tricky because it has got the indentations in it, and there was a little bit more intricate detail on this door. So for all of the naysayers saying that painting is faster, I definitely do not agree with that. Suzanne had said, this is a fantastic idea, you did a great job. For those naysayers who'd rather paint, I'd say go with this instead. I've painted and it's a pain and it's messy. Nice thing about this is that if the vinyl peels away, it can easily be fixed. Thank you, Suzanne. Yes, I completely agree. The little bits that I've got that have damaged, I've got a spare roll of wrap. I can literally just patch that up. I don't have to get out all of the paint again, and yeah, it's so easy to do. So Kelly had asked, how long does the wrap last? Is it quite secure? Trying to figure out if I should do something like this or paint. So I think it's all dependent on how well you look after it and how well you wrap it to begin with. Definitely if you're doing this on a plain door, it's going to last a hell of a lot longer than the doors that I've got. We're 11 months in with this now, it's still doing pretty well, just the odd little bit that might need a little bit of touching up. But I would say that those sorts of damage marks that I've got probably would have happened as well with paint. I know that if you hit sort of any painted surface too hard with anything, chances are something's going to chip off it, so then you would end up with a little bit of an uneven bit when you retouched up. So I think it's swings and roundabouts really, both would probably react in the same way to that. Comment from Caitlin, these look amazing. If I did this to a cabinet that had been painted with a roller, will I see the texture through the vinyl? Also, how well does this vinyl clean with everyday messes? Cleaning is absolutely fine. Bits of food cleans off, it just wipes down. In terms of seeing the texture through the vinyl, I think it depends what product you actually use. So because this was like a standard matte, it's a little bit thinner. I think gloss wraps do tend to be a little bit thicker, so I would say that you're probably not going to see as much through that as you would one of these thinner ones. If you do have pre-painted cabinets, I'd recommend maybe just giving them a sand down first before covering with something like this. You should have done it all in one piece and used a heat gun to help it form all of the corners and the lines. I've tried this and it doesn't work. If you can do that with this particular cabinet, go ahead, show me the video, put a video up there for someone else so that they know how to do it. Because if it was a different product, I'd say it's probably possible, but DC Fix is just too thin to do it. This particular wrap at least anyway. The gloss one might be a little bit different, but everyone that I've seen wrapping a door with a frame has cut it in strips. So it's not ideal. I mean, if you were using a slab door, if your doors were completely flat, I highly recommend this product. I don't think that you would have any issues with it at all. Because I mean, actually, I even did the backs on these cupboards, so that holds it into place on the edges as well, so it's not going anywhere anytime soon unless I peel it off. Fiona has asked, where can I buy the DC Fix vinyl wrap? Is it sold in the USA? So I'm not sure if DC Fix do actually sell in the USA or not. In the UK you can buy it from lots of stores. They sell it in B&Q, which is where I bought it from, B&M, Wilko and The Range. I'm not sure if there's any other stockists. In the US I did see a guy covering a very similar door to me, and he used a product called Dynoc, which is a much thicker wrap, so that will be much more durable. There are products in the US that are available, it's just not going to be DC Fix. Cameron had said, that looks great, can you wrap existing factory wrap doors or do you need to rough it up with sandpaper? Also, how is it beside heat, i.e. the oven? So you can wrap over the top. I removed all of my previous wrap because it was actually coming away. You could see where it was peeling off, so I peeled the back off all of mine. If you're doing this for a rental property, obviously don't peel off the front of your cupboards. The nature of this product in particular does fix pretty much to any surface. As long as it's free from dust and clean, you don't have any bits under it, I think you're good to go. Next to the oven, it's doing absolutely fine. There's not any sort of melting. It's DC Fix is heat resistant up to a certain temperature. I'll pop that on screen, I'll have to look that up. But yeah, next to the oven, it's been absolutely fine, no issues with it whatsoever. The same with up next to the cooker, no issues with it there either. CMS had commented saying, excellent way of upcycling and preserved dwindling resources, well done. So this is a really good point actually, because if you think about every time you remove a kitchen, if you get a skip, chances are that's going to end up in landfill. I think what I really liked about doing this was the fact that I didn't have to go out and buy a new kitchen. There was absolutely nothing wrong with the carcasses that I already had. The doors themselves, once the old covering was taken off, were perfectly fine. So to be able to not spend a lot of money on doing the kitchen and preserving resources as well. It's good for the environment if it's something that you're going to obviously use for a couple of years. You could even just recover over it, but I think that in terms of saving money and resources, this is a brilliant way to do up your kitchen. But I suppose the same thing, it works with paint as well if you're reusing what you've already got. How long does this wrap last? Has it peeled off yet on the edges? So as I showed, there are some bits that are peeling. If you have flat doors, I don't think that this would be an issue, especially if you cover the back like I showed you earlier. There are a few bits where I'd not quite folded it over well enough in the corners, and where it's scraping it is starting to peel. So I think if you spend like that little bit of extra time whilst you're doing it, making sure that everything is as flush and as smooth as possible, you shouldn't really have any issues with it. But most of the peeling bits are in quite inconspicuous places, but I think this isn't going to last forever. It's a quick fix really. I'd say you probably get maybe 2 years out of it. It'll all depend on how well you look after it. Obviously if you're constantly throwing things at your cabinets and banging things into it like I've obviously done near the sink, then you are going to get chips and it's going to get damaged with this product. If you were to go with a thicker one, I'm sure it would be more durable and would probably last that little bit longer. So Kirsty had asked, hey there, what would you suggest as a primer? I didn't actually prime the door, I just said prime in terms of cleaning it down, making sure it's free of dust. But I would say if you're painting onto MDF, any basic surface primer would be fine. Give it a sand down after it's dried. But I suppose if you were going to prime the door, you may as well just paint them. But I think most surfaces always work out best once they've been primed anyway. Looks amazing. How long did it take for you to wrap the whole kitchen? So I didn't actually do this all at once. It was kind of one of those things where I was doing it a little bit at a time. So it was easy to just take off a couple of the doors, sit down maybe watching a bit of TV and do it. So I'd maybe do 2 or 3 in an evening, and then I spent like a couple of hours then going around doing all of the front trims. If you watched any of my kitchen renovation videos, I had it in 2 parts. So I did the first part where I was actually wrapping the kitchen, and then the second part was where I was adding in the additions to the kitchen. So I'd added in extra cupboards, I'd added in these plinths. And I think that the great thing about it was I was able to extend the kitchen without having to worry too much about getting everything to match. I was able to find like pretty much the cheapest cornice, which was actually a cream colour, so I just wrapped that in the same colour as the doors. So I'd say if you set aside a weekend, depending on how many people you have to help, if there was maybe a couple that was doing it, you could easily get a kitchen done in a weekend. I'd asked, how did you get on with wrapping the bottoms and the cornices? So as I explained, I bought these separately. So the best thing to do is if you have any of these in your plinths, obviously take them out so that they're not actually attached to any of your cupboards. Wrap them separately and then just pop them back into place. It might actually be a good idea just to colour in sort of like any bits that you can see, because one thing that I kind of missed really was this top bit. I didn't realise that was going to be on show, so I had to actually redo some of those. I rent as well and wondered how easy it is to get this off the cabinets. Does it damage them? No, it just peels straight off. It's not stuck on with glue. I did have to peel a few bits off previously and redo them. I didn't have any issues with it. Obviously though, as I've said, if you're renting, do not peel off your existing covering on your cupboards. I mean, to be honest, if you were to speak to your landlord after it was done, I'm sure that most of them would be really happy to keep it how it was without you having to peel it back off. If the kitchen looks bad enough that you feel you need to do something to it whilst you're renting a property, it's always worth asking your landlord anyway, just to see whether they're happy with you doing that. Glenn had commented most recently, not trying to be smart, but that door can be covered using one big piece of wrap and using a heat gun to help with the application into the grooves and wrapping the outer corner edges. I never saw her use a heat gun, which might have made it a bit easier. However, there is no way I would want to do a whole kitchen full of doors like those. So I just wanted to mention the second part of Glenn's comment. I did mention at the end of the how-to video, this is how you can always tell if someone's watched a video from start to finish. The best thing to do is once you've wrapped it, to go over with a heat gun. It just helps seal it a little bit more to the actual surface. If you don't have a heat gun, you can use a hairdryer, but pretty much for the flat surfaces it's not really required. And as I said, I can go back through and do these edges as well, so it does help it stick down a little bit more. But if you've got a door that's raised up at the top, or if it's only got a thin sort of indentation on it, definitely use a heat gun with that. It does help mould it in. Pinprick some holes in there as well, just to help the heat get underneath and help it mould into shape. So yeah, you can use a heat gun, you don't have to with flat doors, but it does help. Rachel asked, how well has this held up? Has it gotten nicked up much since you finished your kitchen? A few little bits where it has sort of got damaged. It really depends on your household. If you've got lots of young children that have got, I could just imagine it actually, toddlers maybe smashing like a plastic toy into it, yeah, it's not going to last very long. Or if you've got animals that like to jump up, especially dogs or cats with claws, it's not going to last. But you'd have the same issue with paint as well. You would have to have some sort of maintenance plan in place. So as I said, just have an extra roll, and any damaged pieces you can just replace. If you have a slab door, I would definitely recommend the DC Fix over paint. I think the finish is so much better. It's a nice flat surface and it does look like a brand new kitchen. So if you want to actually see how I did the whole kitchen renovation, I'll pop a link up here and down in the description box below to the kitchen renovation playlist. I actually had loads of fun doing this kitchen. I really didn't like it when I first moved into the house, and I think that by doing this wrap, it allowed me to have a much nicer kitchen than I would have been able to afford at the time. But I think if you're looking for something that's probably a shorter term solution, if maybe you've just moved into a property, you either don't own it or you've just bought it and you don't have enough money to redo the whole kitchen just yet, but you can't stand the sight of the kitchen that's there, just giving the kitchen a quick revamp, it makes it more livable for a year or two until you can afford to get a new kitchen fitted. So definitely recommend using this product. I'm planning on using it again in another 2 kitchens that I'm working on at the moment. On the channel I do lots of home renovations, few of the lifestyle bits, so if you enjoyed the video, hit the subscribe button. So thanks very much for watching, see you again soon.